Hello everyone. Before we dive into today's topic, I want to remind you to hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. It helps support the channel and I really appreciate it. Now let's get into the video. Today we're going to be exploring the rise and ultimate downfall of Saturn. Established in 1985 as a subsidiary of General Motors, Saturn was GM's response to the growing influence of Japanese automakers in the US market. These competitors were known for efficient, affordable, and reliable cars, and Saturn aimed to capture that market share with a fresh approach. In the 1990s, Saturn made its mark with the introduction of the S-Series. This lineup included the SL sedans, SW wagons, and SC coupes, all powered by a 1.9-liter inline-4 engine. Now, you could option these engines in two variants, a single overhead cam version producing up to 100 horsepower and 114 foot-pounds of torque, or the dual overhead cam version pushing 124 horsepower and 122 pound-feet of torque. Now, Saturn was also innovative with a no-haggle pricing strategy, which was a hit, setting a precedent for transparent pricing in the automotive industry, which meant the price you saw was the price you paid. Now really, this should be incorporated in modern automotives to stop those slimy dealers from jacking up the MSRP to whatever they goddamn please. Anyway, I digress. Now, this approach was the part of a broader strategy to enhance customer satisfaction and trust. Now, throughout this decade, Saturn garnered a reputation for high customer satisfaction and loyalty thanks to in part features like dent-resistant polymer side panels,
the Saturn Ion with dent-resistant side panels. Saturn, people first.
although who would want plastic on their cars? Though option varied on the material's appeal. Entering the 2000s, Saturn expanded its lineup with the L Series in 2000, offering mid-sized cars to attract a broader range of buyers. Now, these cars included a 2.2-liter inline-4 engine producing 137 horsepower and 135 pound-feet of torque. They also could have a 3-liter V6 delivering 182 horsepower and 190 foot-pounds of torque. Now, despite the initial success, Saturn faced declining sales and struggled with GM's financial difficulties, prompting a shift towards global product development by 2004.
There is a way to design a sedan that embraces the road and the driver. Introducing the 2007 Saturn Aura midsize sedan. Saturn, like always, like never before.
Saturn introduced new models like the Aura, featuring multiple engine options, which were a 2.4-liter with 169 horsepower, a 3.5-liter with 219 horsepower, a 3.6-liter with 252 horsepower, and a hybrid version of that 2.4-liter, making a little less, but 164 horsepower nonetheless.
At Saturn, we pride ourselves on being different. Recently, we even did big different. Introducing the Outlook, an entirely new crossover from Saturn. Seating for 8, safety all around, and better fuel economy than any 8-passenger SUV. It's bigger, it's smarter, it's Saturn. Now, lease an Outlook XE starting at around $349 a month. Call for lease details.
The Outlook, a crossover SUV, also came with a 3.6-liter V6, but was increased to 275 horsepower in subsequent years.
Hey, John. Hey.
The idea behind the cars is changing. The idea behind the company remains the same. Introducing the brand new Aura, the redesigned View, and the first ever Sky Roadster. Saturn.
The Sky, a 2-seater sports car, offered either a 2.4-liter producing a healthy 173 horsepower, or a turbocharged 2-liter engine with 260 horsepower. Now, despite all these additions, Saturn couldn't reverse its declining sales, exacerbated by the 2008 financial crisis, which led GM into bankruptcy and restructuring. By 2009, GM sought to sell Saturn as a part of its recovery plan. Penske Automotive Group initially interested, but ultimately declining.
General Motors announced that it is going to get rid of the Saturn brand. Talks to sell the division have collapsed. The Penske Group, headed by racing legend Roger Penske, was in negotiations to buy the brand. But with those talks now broken down, the brand, once touted as the future of GM, is dead. Here's Chris Bury.
For more than 300 Saturn dealers and 13,000 GM employees, this is the end of the road. For GM, Saturn had become an unwanted, unprofitable stepchild.
I think General Motors really ignored Saturn. They launched it very strong, they did a lot of work bringing it out, and then they let the product age and become uncompetitive without putting more money into it when they really needed to.
Saturn debuted 20 years ago, GM's long-awaited answer to Japanese imports.
Gonna be a great feeling.
Saturn pioneered no-haggle pricing. Management and union boasted of a team approach, but sales peaked in 1994. It never made a profit.
It looked good and it was well marketed, but it was mediocre at best, and it slid downhill from there.
Automotive tycoon Roger Penske, a potential savior, hoped to sell Saturns, not make them. Today, the deal collapsed when he couldn't find a manufacturer who would. So the car that once seemed the future of GM now joins the scrap heap of its past. Chris Bury, ABC News, Chicago.
Consequently, GM made the decision to discontinue the Saturn brand in 2010, making the end of production for the iconic vehicles. Saturn's story highlights a legacy of innovation and customer-focused strategies that initially succeeded but ultimately couldn't withstand the pressures of a changing market and internal challenges with GM. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like to support the channel, and let me know in the comments if you have any experiences with Saturn cars or which model was your favorite. Stay curious, and thanks for watching.